Okay, we're going to call our meeting to order. Good welcome, and welcome to the Board of Regents meeting. Are the mics on? Yeah. Can you hear me now?
It is not on, I don't think, Mr.
Yours is.
Yeah, it's on.
Mine is? Or is it just my big voice?
No, I hear you echoing. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Is that it?
There.
Okay. Pull it closer.
I hear you.
There we go. All right. Good morning and welcome to the Board of Regents meeting. We will get started this morning, so please find your seat if you haven't already. Thank you to everyone for attending today, and a big thank you to Northwestern State University for hosting us. This has been a great tour. Campus is beautiful, the town is beautiful, and the food is amazing. So kudos to everybody that helped put this together. You've done an excellent job. As a reminder, this meeting will be held as a committee of whole. Therefore, all meetings will vote on each recommended motion. Our system representative colleagues who serve the standing committees may also vote on matters that usually come before the committee that they serve on. So we will call this meeting to order. Doreen, members, remember we're being live streamed, so you will need to turn off your cell phones if you have not already. And Doreen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Regent Aubrey.
Present.
Regent Cordell.
Present.
Regent Creed.
Here.
Regent David.
Here.
Regent Levy.
Here.
Regent May.
Here.
Regent Meir.
Present.
Regent Orr.
Here.
Regent Pryor.
Here.
Regent Solomon. Here. Here. Regent Sterling.
Here.
Regent Temple.
Here.
Regent Williams-Brown.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. Next up, we'll ask for any public comments. Are there any public comments? All right, hearing none, I'll ask if there are any additional public comments under other business. We'll move to approval of the minutes. Members, you received a copy of the September 25th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Regent Aubrey, second.
Second.
By Meir, thank you. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. The chair's comments. Members, I would like to start off by thanking the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame for hosting us last night and for a wonderful reception, along with Taylor Townsend. It was a great evening, and many of our higher education partners and stakeholders. We have had a chance to visit a beautiful building and learn a lot about sports history in our state, and I learned quite a few new things last night. They did a great job of hosting us. Also, I want to thank President Genovese and his team for hosting us the past 2 days. You have been, just everybody here is just full of excitement, so it's infectious. It's been really, really great to meet everyone. Seeing the talent development in action is inspiring, and it helps us do an even better job in both our policy and our advocacy work. Again, members, thank you so much for traveling here to Natchitoches as we focus on our regional work, which we know is critical to the success of our master plan goal. The fall semester is in full swing, and our campuses are buzzing with activity. I'm not sure if you've all had a chance to see our student member featured in the Advocate or in the fun Southern University homecoming video, but we appreciate that she is such a great representative for all of us and all of the Louisiana students. As is tradition, I'd like to hand it over to our student board member, Kennedy Orr, to give us a student update. Kennedy.
Thank you. So, of course, we are in the midst of homecoming season. So all campuses are bustling with activity and alumni coming in and engaging with our student body. We are also very proud of all the campuses that have done their due diligence to do voter registration and voter education. And so we're excited for that participation. And the COST meeting will be held next weekend at Southeastern University. So very excited for that. We have some amazing things coming up on our agenda and looking forward to updating you all on those activities.
All right, thank you so much, Regent Orr. It sounds like you've been very busy. And also, while he could not be with us, our new member today, we would like to welcome Dr. Samir Shamaya to the Board of Regents. Dr. Shamaya is a board-certified spine surgeon on the North Shore. He played tennis at the nationally ranked LSU men's tennis team in the program of 1999 to 2000. He earned his undergrad degree from LSU and his medical degree from LSU Health Sciences, Shreveport. We look forward to him joining us at the December meeting. And our North Louisiana visits. So 2 weeks ago, I was able to attend site visits with other regents to ULM, Tech, and Grambling, where we met with institutional leadership, legislators, and staff. Each institution provided us with an update of their current facility projects as well as their vision for future development of each campus. The visits were beneficial to hear and see firsthand our institution's capital outlay goals and needs. Each campus presentation was very well done, contained exciting details for the future of these institutions, and we got to touch, feel, and tour all the campuses, so that was really nice to see things in person. My thanks to our board members who have been traveling across the state to visit campuses and engage with the president, students, and staff. I hear lots of good things. They're very glad that we're so involved. So on to nominating committee. Members at our October meeting each year, the chair announces the nominating committee. The nominating committee brings a recommended slate of officers to us during our December meeting for the board's consideration and approval. The members who I'm appointing to the nominating committee are as follows: Regent Solomon, Chair; Regent Levy; Regent Aubrey; Regent Meyer; and Regent Williams-Brown. Thanks to each of you for your willingness to serve on this important committee, and I look forward to your wisdom and your recommendation. And in addition, you'll be asked to consider changes in the bylaws to conform to our process for selecting board officers to the legislation that was passed earlier this year. Staff will distribute the necessary language prior to the December board meeting, so please be on the lookout for that. And I would like to take a break from our agenda really quick to honor someone very important to this Regent staff. Our outgoing chair is Chair Solomon, and I want to say a little something personal about him. When I received my appointment as chair, he was one of my biggest supporters. He's also my very first phone call, even before my husband.
It's a very special feeling.
And he has been so supportive and so great, and he's been so important to this Regents team. So
Thank
we
you.
want to offer you a gift.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your service
pleasure.
and for your friendship. Thank you for doing such a good job for Regents and for our state. Okay, on to our momentum moment. We're excited about the great things happening on this campus. This morning before our meeting, the president gave us an update of Northwestern, and we also got to go on a very informative campus tour. We got hard hats, vests, everything, so that was fun. We got our steps in. For our next agenda item, we'll learn even more. For a momentum moment, we will hear from Dr. Greg Handel, the Executive Vice President and Provost of Northwestern State University, about how they are implementing the momentum framework to improve student success. On to you.
Thanks so much, Chair Cordell. As members know, each month we have a moment where we allow campuses to really tell us all of the work that they are doing to try to further our progress towards our 2030 goal. And so it's really my pleasure to invite Dr. Handel to tell us all about what's happening on Northwestern's campus. As we know, normally we just get to see this sitting there in Baton Rouge, and we sort of get to see it third hand, so to say. But today, really the campus visit was just tremendously helpful and just really, really inspiring. So thanks. So yeah, thanks, Greg.
Well, thank you, Dr. Denley, and welcome again to the Northwestern State University campus. We're glad you're here, and we are so happy that you have had a good time thus far. That is always our goal, that you have a great time and are treated to some hospitality while you're here on campus and in Natchitoches. We have taken very seriously our mission as a regional serving institution and what that really means to us and for us, and we know and realize that all institutions, regional, state, or national research institutions all have different philosophies and different missions, and the areas that they serve bring with them different challenges. And so when we started our work for the Momentum Framework, we began it by calling together stakeholder groups from our campus, faculty and staff, And we just had several conversations about what are we seeing on this side of the table as faculty and staff that might be barriers for our students and might be barriers for incoming students. And once we thought we had a pretty good working list, then we took that list to a focus group made up of different students across all of our campuses, both Natchitoches, our Shreveport Nursing Allied Health campus, our Sinlock campus, and then we held some virtual focus groups as well for students who potentially would be attending online only. And so we started with this list of barriers, and they agreed with some of them, and then they gave us, as students usually do, a very lively and spirited idea of some of the barriers they face. And so we jumped right in and got to work, and we have found it to be a really beneficial process for us. Our goal has always been that we want the student experience here to be enjoyable, to be as easy as possible to access our programs, to access what it takes to be successful at an institution, and to make those experiences impactful for us to retain the students, most importantly for us to provide services and support that help them persist. Not only through their degree program and completion and getting out into the profession, but also the obstacles that they face along the way. One of the things that we know we do very well is our first-year experience, and we have an excellent first-year experience program that includes 40 Demon Days, we call them, and they're 40 days of events for our first-year students, and that encourages them from the very first moment they move into our residence halls to become involved in different activities and make immediate friendships and create relationships that make them less homesick and more aware of what the university is. And one of the things we have seen in our work that we're going to be working towards as we continue in this work is what happens beyond the first year, the second year experience and beyond the second year experience. As provost, I have the responsibility of spearheading our next quality enhancement plan that we have to submit as part of our SAC COC reaffirmation. And one of our ideas is to look at the second year and beyond experience. We know that especially in the second year, we have found that that is where students face obstacles, where a lot of their academics get increasingly difficult in scope and responsibilities, which adds a lot of stress to their lives. And it is the time that sometimes they decide they can't persist. And so we are looking to put in support processes that can help them persist beyond that second year and get them through all 4 or 4.5 years of their study. And so I just wanted to take a moment to show you just a brief picture of some of the things that we are doing that we're especially proud of as part of our momentum framework. And Dr. Denley, just click. Okay. And so we have partnered with Career Compass of Louisiana for a program called Beyond Graduation, and it is a grant through the Rapides Foundation. Currently, we are in our 3rd cohort, and we have recruited over 455 students. The Beyond Graduation program is free for students, and it identifies students who are facing, initially on the high school side, barriers to a post-secondary education. And it helps, gives additional support for those students to get to campuses and get to Northwestern. We are looking with our fourth cohort, which is being recruited currently, that we will have well over 500 students, by the time we get this 4th cohort recruited. We had to hire an additional Beyond Graduation coach who is housed and is an employee of our campus. And the students, once they are recruited, they have that person as a point of contact for any issue they may be facing, whether it be inability to succeed in an academic course. That Beyond Graduation coach helps them connect with the instructor, with the advisor. We find that a lot of students are shy and say that apparently professors are scary and unapproachable. And so we want to remove that barrier, and the Beyond Graduation Coach helps them do that. They may face financial aid difficulties, especially this fall with a very troubled new FAFSA rollout. That is something we have found that has been a barrier for a lot of our students as well. So we are looking forward to a continued relationship with the Beyond Graduation Program and Career Compass of Louisiana. One of the very first things we did was an initiative called FLAME, which is Faculty-Led Assistance in My Education. This initiative originated in the School of STEM, and its goal was to encourage the faculty in the School of STEM to take 2 of their 10 required office and student hours and offer them in a place where there are actually students, whether it be the student union, whether it be our dining hall, whether it be our academic success center in Watson Library. Be available for a place where students might actually recognize you and say, I do need some extra assistance in my biology class or in my math class. It has been a wildly successful initiative. The other thing we pushed this fall was for expansion of those hours, so not just the 8 to 5 business day, but to possibly hold some of those student hours in the Academic Success Center from the 5 o'clock to 9 p.m. hour, and we've had tremendous success and feedback from our students on that. So successful that we have asked to expand this initiative across the entire College of Arts and Sciences for this academic year as a pilot and an experiment. And so far that has been going very, very well. If we feel it is really highly successful, then we will look at expanding that across all of our academic colleges in the next few years. Our Academic Success Center, the FLAME initiative is really an extension of our Academic Success Center, where they can get extra support with homework and tutoring, and meant to complement the existing student services. Most exciting is this fall, we rolled out our Elevate U program, which is a Title III grant. We received $2 million in federal funding as an initiative to offer additional support structures to Pell-eligible students. The goal of the program is to improve academic advising, improve and support the gateway course support for students, and we are already extremely proud of our co-requisite math and English programs, and so we're able to add a little more additional support to that. And then most importantly, creating guided pathways for student success. That was one of the things that students shared with us in the focus groups, that they maybe understood their program of study and how to move through it. They mostly understood what they were to take and when they were to take it, but there was a lot of confusion. Some students would get off track and then end up having to stay an extra semester because a course wasn't offered or they got out of their rotation. And so we've created mapping, and I'm going to show a couple of examples of that here in a moment. But another thing that we've done as part of our marketing initiatives for the Momentum Framework is we've created student-led and created podcasts through our Department of New Media, Journalism, and Communication Arts. These are students in each degree program that make short, impactful podcasts that we put out on social media and on our website. And it's kind of real life, real talk from student to student about progressing through the academic program, some of the strategies that successful students have used to be able to continue to persist through their degree programs. And it just promotes awareness of the degree program and the completion of study. One of the extra initiatives we've done there that isn't up here, but during our Inside View 2 weeks ago, which is one of our early campus visit days, we invited 14, we called them influencers, to campus early, and they spent the Friday going around Natchitoches and the campus with our social media team and filming experiences and filming videos and creating podcasts. These influencers then posted to their social media with all the correct correct hashtags, and they are then taking them to their home school and helping us recruit students, showing them what a great experience it is to come to Northwestern and what a great experience it is to be a resident of Natchitoches and to go to school in Natchitoches. We're extremely proud of that. It's been incredibly successful. This is an example of one of our academic maps. We have a lot of students who desire to go to pharmacy school. And so you can imagine with a very particular curriculum, it's important that you take your electives at the right time. So this is one of our academic maps, which I think is very, very helpful. But even when you look at this, it can be a little overwhelming. And if you're not a visual learner, this can be too much. And so that is the feedback we've gotten, is that this has been impactful for a lot of students, but we have a subset of students who say, that's just too much. I look at it and it overwhelms me. In fact, it may even make me not want to continue on in this. So we're looking at how to improve that. And we always encourage them to look all the way to the bottom where it says, you've finished. This is another, we have a lot of students, again, in our School of STEM is where we piloted this, that want to go to professional, medical school, graduate school, but they understand how to get there from a curricular perspective, but they might get some of the steps out of order. And so this is their pathway. So you can see Vic starts out there with his application to Northwestern, and then it takes Vic on the correct pathway and tells Vic what to do along the way. One of the things that we have added that has been incredibly helpful for our students who are seeking to go to professional school is the mock professional school interview. So there are panels of our biology and microbiology faculty, and they mimic a mock interview for the students, and then give them feedback. And then if the student wants to do another mock interview, they will go through that process again. So another thing that we are continuing to improve. We are starting that career mapping and academic program mapping throughout all of our academic programs now as part of the Title III Elevate U grant, and it's funded through that. And then I'd like to end with what you got to start your tour with this morning, which is our food pantry, which has been an extremely successful initiative for us since 2015. And I don't need to tell you about it because you were over there this morning. But it's really been a fantastic option for our students. It has been a lifesaver for a lot of our international students who sometimes come with the available funds to pay for their tuition and fees, but might not have been able to save quite enough money to purchase the meal plan or to go grocery shopping. And so this helps bridge that gap until they're able to get those funds and get themselves settled. And as Vice President Retha Cox shared this morning, initially this was a source of embarrassment for a lot of students, and we've taken that element of embarrassment and shame out of the process because we did find that that was a barrier as well. And I've shared on the academic side that I was somebody, when I was an undergraduate, I was a good student. I'm not afraid to admit that, but I struggled with my first math class, and I really needed academic tutoring. I got very behind. I was too proud and too ashamed to access a tutor. Luckily for me, and I certainly didn't really want to admit it to myself, and I absolutely did not want to admit it to my parents that I needed help or that I was struggling. Luckily for me, I had a professor who noticed and approached me privately and asked if I needed some extra help, and I was able to pass the class with that help. So removing the barriers is extremely important. It's personal for me because I've had that experience. And so we want to continue to do that. Here are some statistics just from this fall about our food pantry and what we've been able to do in some of our key initiatives. And our most recent one, this is homecoming week, and so there's been a major food drive as part of our homecoming week, and I know that's been incredibly successful. So those are just a few of the things we're doing as part of this momentum framework. And again, I thank the board for the opportunity to present some of the things that Northwestern is doing, and I'm happy to talk about them again if I've been given the opportunity. We're very proud of the initiatives, and we continue to evaluate them. I already told you about our plans for our next quality enhancement plan, and we look forward to continuing to make education at Northwestern an accessible thing for any student who wants to come to school here. And while we are a regional serving institution, we know that our impact is well beyond that. It is national and it is global. And one shameless plug that I will make before I stop talking is that, as evidence of that, 5 of our theater and dance graduates made their Broadway debut this past March. 5 of our theater dance graduates from this institution debuting on Broadway the same year. So thank you again for the opportunity, and welcome to Natchitoches.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work you're doing and the passion that you have for our students here in Louisiana. It truly shows. Do we have any questions from the board? Dr. Handel?
Thank you.
Oh, and could you tell us a little bit about the workforce alignment that you guys are doing with the locals?
Absolutely. So each of our academic programs has an academic advisory council that is made up of some of our faculty and staff. It's made up of some of our students, our alums, and then our industry and workforce partners. And they meet quarterly, typically. And sometimes it's in person if it's surrounding an event like homecoming. Most of the meetings are virtual. And the workforce, our industry and workforce partners are extremely relevant to us because they are the ones who provide impactful feedback about what our students are doing well, what they're noticing, about where they're maybe lacking, and some of the improvements that we may need to make in our academic programming, some ways we might evolve our curriculum, courses that maybe were relevant 20 years ago but no longer serve the profession in the same way. And so we've been able to really work with them to evolve our curriculums. And so that is one of our major ways that we are connecting to the workforce. Our current QEP is experiential learning. And so every one of our academic programs has an end of program experience that is an internship or a research project. It can be a creative and performing arts performance, a final performance. It can be an international internship. We've expanded. We started with basically 3 subsets of things that students could do, and now we've expanded as we've learned more and more about what end of program experiences students want and need. We have found that end of program experience is what really connects them and networks them to the profession.
That's great.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I feel remiss, we did not introduce the lovely Miss Valencia Jones, who is the LSU systems rep and the former LSU board chair. A few of us got to visit with her last night. She is from Northwestern. She gave great recommendations and was the face person for the Christmas, all things Christmas in Northwestern. So we got some really good information. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
She will be part of our quorum. On to finance. So Regents has had me hopping. I think I've slept in my own bed twice in the last 2 weeks. I was in Baton Rouge most of last week, and I got to make comment in House Appropriations as well as House Education. And we, of course, are coming forward to all of our legislature. We're asking for dollars. We're asking them to fund us. It's very important. Healthcare and higher ed are always on the chopping block. And we let them know that we've been doing more with less, and we can't do more with any less. So they need to keep us whole. And one of the things that we make sure that we're pushing with the legislature is how we are trying to align with workforce. So if you want us to fill jobs in all these companies that we're trying to attract to our state, we need to make sure that we have got workforce ready for them and we're aligning with them. So know that we as Regents, that's one of our top priorities, is to make sure that we are hearing from workforce, working with workforce, and putting forth a plan so that we can we can earn our money and make sure the legislature knows that we need to be here. And we need to be fully funded.
There you go.
Okay, guys.
All right, thank you, Chair Cordell. I couldn't have said it better
think she
myself,
did
so
your work for
I'll
you,
just leave the stage right now.
I had to put my little heart in there.
You can handle the request. So one of the things we wanted to start with, based on the conversations yesterday, was it was at the June meeting that we announced that we were asked to look at what a $250 million cut scenario looked like for higher education. A few months later, House Appropriations asked us to look at a $100 million reduction to higher education. And so at the budget hearings in September, each system submitted what the $250 million cut looked like, which is around 24%. The $100 million reduction that the House requested is around 9.4%. So we've responded to those requests of what that looks like, and I'm providing it for your information here as to how it impacts each system. I want to note that in both of these scenarios, financial aid, state financial aid was not reduced. So TOPS, Go Grants, MJ Foster, Patriot Scholar, and Go Teach are not impacted here. This is impacts at the institution, the boards, and the research centers is where these impacts would occur. On the next slide is where we are, where we need to be, and what we're requesting for the ensuing year. So currently we're at $1.3 billion in state general fund across higher education. Using all our various formulas and surveys and everything else, we need about a little under $2.1 billion to be fully funded, which would be an ask of $765 million. That is a lot of money in the fiscal situation that we are facing in coming July 1. And so we've put together a request of $142.3 million that Elizabeth will explain on the next couple of slides, that gives some flexibility to let us grow if there's additional money, but also to protect us if there isn't additional money and we can use the dollars already within our budget. So I'll turn it over to Elizabeth now.
Thank you, Matthew. So as you can see on the slide, we have it distributed within two different sections: institutional stability and targeted requests. For institutional stability, we're looking at our request is $89 million, with an increase of formula funding of $59 million, and an increase for our specialized institutions, which includes our Ag Centers, Pennington, Southern Law Center, as well as our Health Science Centers. And that is $30 million. We also have a request to maintain the $38 million of non-recurring line items that are in the current year budget. Normally, it is the process to remove those during the executive budget process, and we are asking to maintain that funding going into fiscal year 26. And then we also have a TBD for our mandated cost savings. As you know, those are a tremendous amount for our institutions, and we are asking that whatever that cost savings is to remain within higher education as well, instead of being redistributed to other state agencies. Within the targeted request, we're asking for $53.3 million. Within that is dual enrollment at $20 million. This will provide for our juniors and seniors one course each for dual enrollment moving forward. We're also requesting an additional $10.5 million for foster scholars, moving the total amount for our foster scholar program up to $21 million. Again, we're requesting $10 million for Go Grants, which is our need-based scholarship program, and $10 million for the National Cancer Institute designation, which, as we know, is a collaboration with Tulane, with Health Science Center in New Orleans, with Xavier, and with the Cancer Research Center in New Orleans as well. We're requesting an additional $2.3 million for Patriot Scholars. This request is from our National Guard partners. It has been they've received a tremendous response from the National Guardsmen, and we want to recognize that and request that as well. And they too are in full support of continuing that program and expanding it. And then we're also requesting an additional $500,000 for our cybersecurity program. Right now, within the current year budget, we have $7.5 million, but as we all know, inflation and software costs just kind of increase over time, and this will help support that funding going forward. And this is how it is broken out. At present, as Matt noted, we have, within the 25 budget, we are at $1.3 billion, and the $142.3 million request would increase us to 1.4. We would also like to, we will also be requesting one-time requests of $31.5 million. We'll be requesting $20 million for workforce funding, 10 for our two-year programs who focus on short-term training and credentials, as well as our four-year institutions to really expand those high-demand field programs, looking at nursing, education, STEM, and such. We're also requesting an additional $5 million for our postsecondary inclusive education fund. This fund has provided a tremendous amount of support for our institutions who offer programs for our students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. If you haven't checked it out, I really encourage you to go to the institutions and see the difference this program is making. We're requesting an additional $2 million for our Cyber Education Management Council and the initiatives that are being developed there for the Cyber Academy. We're requesting $2 million for our campus safety funding. This would be a phase 2 for what we've been doing for the past 2 years. We'll be completing a 2-year project of our campus safety assessments across every single institution. We are happy to say that NCBRT has literally walked every single campus within the state by the end of this fiscal year, and their work has been very well received. If any of y'all would like to join them in their walk, I know they will be happy to have you come along. It's a very eye-opening experience. We're also requesting $1.5 million for Lewis for our textbook affordability. Of course, one of our initiatives is to always make education as affordable for our students, and this certainly helps drive that home. And then last but never least is the $1 million for our hunger-free campus. You guys saw it in work this morning. You know what it means. Food insecurity is an issue for our students, and we recognize that, and we want to do whatever we can in order to make a difference there as well. And with that, senior staff recommends approval of the State General Fund operating budget request for all of higher education systems, boards, and agencies for fiscal year 26. All right, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Matthew, and thank you for all your hard work. Do we have any questions from the board?
Just have a comment.
Yes, sir.
In the materials, one of the things that points out, Louisiana is last among 16 states with per capita funding of $244.97, which the southern average is more than 40% higher. That's just the average. That's not the best performing states. The number one reason that our children are not going to college is affordability. And so this is not going to advance. If we do not get the funds we need, it's not going to advance the state. And why is this important? Just a couple of facts, and I know the Board of Regents knows this, but I think it's important to point out that Folks with a bachelor's degree have nearly doubled the average income of folks without a bachelor's degree. They have higher marriage rates. They have higher home ownership rates. On unemployment, people with bachelor's degree, 2% unemployment. Those folks without a bachelor's degree, 5 times higher at 10%. They're more likely to exercise, less likely to drink, less likely to have heart disease, less likely to have high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, and far less likely to have suicide. In fact, life expectancy of someone with a bachelor's degree for women are 5 years higher, 10 years higher for men with a bachelor's degree. That's why this is important, and I certainly support the recommendation.
Thank you, Regent May.
Very well said.
Very well said. We need that in some bullet points.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve the higher education fiscal year 25 to 26 budget request?
So moved.
So moved. So we have David and Creed. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. On to facilities and property. Our first item for the fiscal year 25 to 26 capital outlay budget recommendation. Chris Herring, Associate Commissioner for Facilities Planning and Emergency Management, will guide us through this item. Chris, you may proceed when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Again, we only have the one item today, which is the 25-26 capital outlay budget recommendation. The chart above shows a synopsis of the number of projects that are being included this year. We received 171 projects for consideration for this cycle. The focus is to continue moving projects forward, which you'll see the first section of projects on the recommendation are all under construction, and just that handful will require approximately $130 million next year to keep those construction projects moving and complete, such as the one you guys saw this morning, the Alos Hall project. We also have a section full of projects that are shovel-ready or will be ready to bid in the next fiscal year, as well as projects still under design and a handful of new projects, as we do have systems or institutions that may have a new project that represents their top priority. I'd like to thank you all again for attending the visits as we've done those around the state. I think it was beneficial for everybody involved, and they really appreciate y'all's attendance. I will mention too, we received a request this morning to essentially swap the priority rankings for a project at Louisiana Tech. I've talked to the system office and they're okay with doing that, so we're essentially moving their first priority in the place of the second priority and vice versa. So that will be represented in the recommendation upon approval. I'm happy to answer any questions about projects or anything related to this. I know it's a lot of information there. We discussed this with each system in advance of bringing this before you today. And other than that last item this morning to come up, everybody was okay with the recommendation. Yes, it was the system had, any institution as well, had Madison Hall, which was the renovation of a large academic facility as the top priority, and the second one was the agriculture, forestry, wood products facility that they discussed. And one of the issues was that it has private donor money that they, that you always run the risk of losing it if you don't move things forward when it has private money. But at the same time, it's being built out of specialty materials, and there's a time sensitivity in terms of what time of the year the facility itself can be built. So they're trying to time that so that the facility can be constructed while those materials are suitable to do so. So those are the two. Nothing else changes, nothing in the order of the projects or dollar-wise changes. It's simply moving one higher and moving the other one back.
Thank you.
Chair. there's nothing more important right now, I think, for Louisiana Tech than pushing forward this forestry program. It is critically needed in the state, but it has so many benefits that you would not ordinarily associate with generally a forestry program. Number one is going to be the materials research. It's state of the art, and it will take wood products of every type and convert them into every imaginable construction and energy and other needs of the country and of the state. In addition, I think it's extremely important to know that the federal government has already committed to being on site and using the Louisiana Tech Forestry building there as a portal into their work and their funding in the future. So it's altogether appropriate to move this to the highest priority we can.
Swapping the campus priorities, or would it change from the system priority or our recommendation as well?
Just the campus, I think, for those two.
So Tech has two. A number 10 on this document, speech and audiology, a number 15, forestry and wood products. So you would swap forestry to 10 and forestry to 10 and Madison Hall to 15.
Correct, and the system priority would stay, forestry would now be the 9th project for the system office.
They're just switching places.
Right, they're switching places for the campus, but where does it impact our priority listing?
So switching places on our priority list. So number 15 is the forestry project. It would become number 10. And number 10 is the Madison Hall project, and it would become number 15. So they've asked us to swap those two Louisiana Tech priority projects on our list.
And to put it, I guess, into additional perspective, like I said, the first 9 projects, again, are under construction. They will require, the ask is $130 million. By the time the session rolls around, that number could increase or decrease depending on the progress of these things. But higher ed this year, on average for the last several years, has received in the $250 million range in terms of new project funding. So after that 130 or so is backed out, as you can see, there's no way to fund all the projects that we receive every year.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, I do support that, but let me ask you to take it another step further.
Okay.
If this one is such an important, and there's industry, we got products, there's pricing, a lot of things that can impact, why couldn't it be higher ranked from our perspective than some of these others in there?
Well, I think, first off, all of these projects are important to the institutions and the state, and especially in the upper echelon of these rankings under the green projects, and they're shovel ready. 2 of them, you'll notice, the 2 ULL projects are only asking for a couple $100,000 each to get those bid and fully funded. So some of them are moving farther along, or will be by the time, the Louisiana Tech project has not bid yet, and there's no bid date established. The Southern project should bid this year. The LumCon one for the vessel replacement is being worked out through an RFQ for selection of a contractor to do that vessel build. So those projects, in terms of where they are in the process, are ahead of this project in question. And it's not saying, it's definitely important. Last year or the current year, they made it, when projects were being funded for consideration during the session, they made it through Regents' top 16 or 18. So, based on this, on that analysis, it would have been included either way, but this, I think, ensures that it will be included next session.
Okay. I have no other questions.
So in other words, it's an adequate ranking to get the funding for the project?
Yes. I feel like it is.
I would also add that generally, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, generally I think the facility planning, the division, and the legislature look to see which projects have self-generated funding
Correct.
as they move the work forward. So if it's on the list, they can and do prioritize from there. But moving the project up would make it the highest self-generated / state general fund project on the list. But again, to Chris's point, if past history predicts where we're headed, that means that they would get to that project. But they certainly would have the ability to go down the list if they wanted to for any other project.
And one last thing, this is something that Roger Husser, the Director of Facility Planning and Control, instituted last year. He hasn't been on board, I don't even think 2 years, but in January of this year, February, we met individually, our office, his office, and each system, because these lists that are provided, the systems are putting these together in July and August. We're bringing them to you today in October. By January, before the session starts, a lot can happen in terms of projects being delayed, or there's issues with equipment availability that might stall something for 6 months. So we had a conversation with each system in the January, February timeframe, which we're going to do again this year, to sit down and say, okay, these are the priorities we had at this point in time. Based on cash flow projections for the upcoming 12 months or fiscal year, and where each project is in the process. Project A may not need the 15 million you asked for, it may only need 10. So that's freeing up 5 million that could possibly go to another project, within that system or another system. But we did have that conversation, which is something that was new, and we're going to continue to do that going forward to make sure we're not asking for more money than a particular project can utilize in the upcoming fiscal year.
Good.
Any other?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the Susla gym, what's the status of that?
Okay, so that one is shovel ready. If they had the funding, it could be in the next month or two. They had they were funded during the legislative process, I think at $8 million this year. It was added to priority one funding. When the bond commission met in July, and then a few weeks ago, the only projects that received lines of credit were those projects that were in the bill, in House Bill 2 originally. Any project other than 2 other Southern projects that had funding added during the session were not funded based on capacity issues. So the projects that were in the bill originally received a line of credit. The ones that had it added during the process did not. The Southern Shreveport is one of those projects.
Okay.
So it's basically on hold until, funding's identified. Southern was looking into pulling some money from, they received lines of credit for a workforce training center they've been working on for a few years, as well as Collier Hall renovation. Those projects have not started just yet, but they had about $3 million in cash lines of credit that they did not foresee using. So the thinking was they could move that to priority 5, non-cash, while putting that $3 million hopefully towards the gym. However, during bond commission last week, the $5 million that was in priority 1 associated with that was moved to priority 5. So I don't think there's a path forward to free up enough capacity at the moment. I know they're having discussions. I know Senator Jenkins has reached out to the administration, and that's something that they're working on.
Okay. And the Southern Law Center, I see they have a renovation for their existing law library. What's the status of does that include the Shreveport location?
No, that's strictly on the main campus.
And what's going on with the Shreveport location?
Of the law center?
Right.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I could get back with you on that one. There was no capital project request for it this year.
They had the flooding there, or a few years back, a flooding of the facility. So are you aware of that, or no one's brought that to you? In downtown, yes.
Okay, I know they were working on a water intrusion project to keep the basement from flooding. But I don't know anything further as it relates to the law school, but I can definitely find out for you.
Okay. And last question. Down there at the Suno School cafeteria, I don't have my glasses. How many millions is that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The Suno University cafeteria? 10 or 2?
10.5 all the way to the right, correct, Chris?
Right. The total budget's all the way in.
Can you describe the university cafeteria at Suno?
It's in bad shape.
$10.5 million?
So this is something that Dr. Ammons and the university has identified as a need for several years now. And originally, they sought capital funding to build a new standalone cafeteria by itself. And after they looked into the reality of the funding, what they had appropriated in the bill versus what it would cost to build a new, brand new standalone cafeteria, they've decided that they're going to gut renovate the existing cafeteria. So that's what this request relates to. They've already received some design money and started design on it. So they'll be looking for construction dollars to actually move into construction next fiscal year.
Now, I know the new Superior restaurant in Lafayette costs $9 million. Has that been approved, that $10.5 million for that cafeteria?
It's, that is the amount, I believe, that's in House Bill 2 right now. Only in terms of what they've received up to this point, they've only received $600,000 so far for planning. So we're basically asking for the difference on that so they can move into construction.
Had they done a study of how many students would use their cafeteria on a daily basis? I believe they have 2,000 students in the entire university.
Right. I'm not aware if they've done one. Just like I said, the existing facility is not up to par for today's college students.
Okay. All right.
We can get some more information about the space utilization and the design work so that we can specifically answer your question.
Right. And I'm not trying to pick on Suno, my friends from New Orleans, but I mean, Suno and Uno, I haven't been hearing a lot of positive things about their needs for, for a standalone cafeteria for $10.5 million. As a steward of the taxpayers' money. So that concerns me. I don't have my glasses, so I can't really see, so I'll shut up on that point.
That is their top priority, and I will say that they're using some federal dollars to build a new nursing building, which is currently under design. That's an exciting project for them. I think it's in about the $20 million range, but that's something the institution is funding outside of the state capital outlay process.
And that's a good thing. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So, based on the one that read are fully, they're really in the construction, we're obligated, it's going to come off the top of the capital outlay budget.
Correct.
And then green are the next in line that are shovel ready or early in the phase of construction?
No, none of these, the green have not bid yet.
So I'm like Wilbur with my eyes.
See-
I'm doing my best.
You see it says ready/bid, so they could be in a bid in '26, or they could be in design.
Looks fine to print.
So, for example, the second one, the Lumcon Pelican replacement, that process is to the point to where they're hoping to have the contractor identified in the next month or two to where they can start construction in January. They have about half the funding right now, so they would, in order to proceed, they would need the balance next fiscal year. So
So like the project we toured today, it's not on here because it's already fully
In
funded.
that case, it is fully funded, correct. The one we toured today is fully funded, that's why you don't see it.
So some of these are under construction, but there's multi-year funding.
Correct. They have P5 outstanding that hasn't converted to a cash line of credit. The ALOS Hall today has been completely converted to priority one and is fully funded. They're not asking for additional cash this year.
So of the next category continuing, how much are you guessing, unless they give more money, but how much of the capital outlay budget, how much money is going to be available for all these different schools and legislators and supporters like us to fight for these dollars? How much is going to be left over after the red gets his share?
Historically, or, on average, probably 120 million or so.
120 million?
Yeah, it could be a little more, it could be less. The infusion of cash has helped the last several years, but as y'all know, it doesn't sound like there's going to be as much cash to throw
So
around.
120 million and needed like 1.8 billion, just for the green.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And again, the whole conversation that we'll have in January or so, originally the thought might be, we can do 10 additional projects, and then once we roll around and discuss with everybody, well, maybe they don't need all this money here and there, maybe we can do 15 now. That's the point of having those discussions, because it's kind of, these requests are put together a couple of months ago, and we're still a couple of months, later bringing it to you, and then there's several months until the session.
And all of the deferred maintenance projects for the next 10 years, all of those been scrubbed out of these?
There's maybe one or two, and they were already in-house built too. For example, Gramblin's roofs, and so the line of credit needs to be reauthorized because we're working on getting the designer set up for those two items. But if it was not previously funded, correct, they all have been pulled from the recommendation.
That graphic, does that contain what you just asked?
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 25-26 capital outlay budget recommendation?
So moved.
Regent Levy, second.
Second. Creed.
Creed, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Other business, is there any other business to come before the committee?
No, ma'am.
Sure.
Chris and I were talking a little bit about this after our awesome walk this morning through the construction site. And I think it's worth this board thinking about, when we look at new projects, some kind of information request to those that are going to build these new projects around what they anticipate the annual maintenance to be, so that we don't go build a beautiful $40 million facility like we saw, whatever the number is, and then add to this deferred maintenance backlog so those beautiful new buildings fall in the same disrepair as the others. And I know it's all a question of where does the money come from, but if these campuses have the ability to plan, or at least anticipate, what a reasonable preventative maintenance budget must look like, it might be valuable for this board to consider that in the context of approving or not approving a project. And so no action, I don't think, needed at this time, but maybe something for Chris and team to think about so we don't repeat the same cycle of the past. As what do we get? We got 3% of our deferred maintenance budget appropriated this year, I think it was, or some number like that. We've got a long way to go chipping away at it.
Yes.
That's right.
And most in that pie chart is HVAC, roofs, elevators, things of that nature. So we've kind of been tossed around trying to think of a procurement plan or some sort of plan where we could help higher ed. So I think that's an excellent comment, because everybody wants to see dirt turned, brand new, beautiful buildings. But in
then
order
what?
to get to those, you have to take care of what's already there. So if we could help higher ed as far as getting that process together so that they can go ask the legislature for those funds, I think that we're certainly willing to do that at Regents.
But I think what Gary's suggesting is almost you could have a carrying cost.
Yes.
That
Right.
you begin to, as you then construct a new building, build in a new carrying cost.
I presume each building is unique based on the type of systems and the nature of it and, I don't know, the condition of the site it's built on, et cetera. So it'd be curious to think about from the architect or contractor's perspective to get the right advice about what is the maintenance one can reasonably anticipate to maintain this so it looks as good 10 years later as it does upon opening, and that we don't look back a decade or two later and say we built this amazing thing we toured today, but we never planned for the roof that would be repaired in 10 years or I don't know what the issues
Typical wear
are.
and tear of a building, especially when it's being used a lot, which is
That's right.
what we want to happen. I think that's
Thank
a
you.
great comment.
Thank you.
Chris, do we have a useful life assessment on every campus? Not just what is deferred maintenance, but on...
Right now, we have self-reported data, which is, I would say is not the most accurate. Higher ed wide, however, is a component of the Act 751 legislation. We asked each system to hold back a portion of those dollars, whereby we've been in discussions with facility planning and with a third-party firm about conducting an assessment across all systems and all campuses to look at basically deferred maintenance in these systems to see where everybody stands in that regard. So the idea is to hopefully provide a guidepost or a footprint for moving forward when the bonds are sold in 2026 that will help them prioritize which facilities may need to be done first, and give them a better idea of where these facilities and mechanical components and things like that stand. But yes, they all typically have an air handler has X amount useful life. So I think they can definitely, preventative maintenance plans can be developed once new facilities are built based on, like Gary said, the types of systems and components that are used to build all these things.
So are we planning to fund it, proposing to fund it? Is it in, where is that?
The assessment?
Yes.
We have the money pulled back, facility, the money's there. We don't have to have any new money. We're asking, our facility planner was looking into whether an RFP would have to be issued or the contract could be done differently. So we've provided data to some of the folks in terms of the number of buildings and square footage and things like that. So the step right now is the contractual part and how that works, and then hopefully we'll see some movement on that in the next month or two.
If you will just begin to keep us abreast in your normal reporting so that we kind of keep up with where that process is.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent comments. Next, we have Academic Institute. Chris, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do you have any other comments? We're good?
Good.
Okay. Next is Academic and Student Affairs. Dr. Tristan Denley is the Deputy Commissioner of Academic Affairs and Innovation, and he will present these items. Thank you, Tristan.
Good afternoon. So, the first item for today for Academic Affairs is the consent agenda. This includes routine staff approvals. Those are, this month, some undergraduate and graduate certificates, changes in CIP codes, and department name changes. And the senior staff recommends the approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, members. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items? So moved by Creed, second. Solomon, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thanks so
Motion
much.
passes.
Thanks so much. So members will remember that last month I presented this year's academic planning proposals, which gave them the list of the programs that campuses would be gradually bringing to you for your consideration throughout the year. So the first two of those appear today. So the first of those is an AAS degree in Health Information Technology at River Parishes Community College. So this degree actually builds on 2 existing certificate programs that RPCC has. They have already a Certificate of Technical Studies in Medical Coding and a Certificate of Applied Science also in that same area in Registered Health Information Technician. And so they're proposing taking really those certificates and then embedding them within this new associate's degree there in Health Information Technology. The degree itself will actually include 2 really important certifications, Registered Health Information Technician and Certified Coding Specialist. These are 2 really in-demand national industry-based certifications that are really needed in that field. As this program will be provided completely online, and so it really will give access all across the state to this kind of training. And it's certainly a kind of training which is very much in demand that will then train people to become health information technologists, medical registrars, and medical record specialists. So that's the first of the degrees today. The second degree is at LSU A&M. This is a Bachelor's of Arts in Honors, Traditions in Critical Thought and Scholarship. This is a very different kind of degree than the kind of degrees that we normally consider. Often we are thinking of degrees as a standalone entity, but this degree is a degree that has been very carefully created at the Honors College at LSU A&M and is specifically designed to be a degree that's taken in conjunction with another degree. So you can imagine that these are students who are going through the honors program at LSU A&M. They're studying a bachelor's degree in engineering or a bachelor's degree in mathematics or a bachelor's degree in, you can imagine. But as well as that degree, the LSU honors program really wanted to create a degree that would specifically enable those students to have a deliberate training in leadership in a multidisciplinary kind of setting, a degree that would enable those students when they graduate to have a credential that distinguished them as really the best and brightest graduates from the flagship institution's honors program. And so that is the degree that is before you there. This what will be called Honors Tracts, T-R-A-C-T-S, that acronym is, again, a unique program in the state being provided to those students who are part of the Honors College program. And they anticipate that overwhelmingly those students that are going through the honors program will twin that degree with other degrees, will be double honors degrees, degree earners when they graduate. So the staff recommend the approval of both of these academic programs as presented, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have about those.
Any questions?
Dr. Denley, are there any other honors colleges across the state that you're aware of that actually are issuing degrees that you?
So not that I'm aware of. This will be the first of its kind in this state. There are certainly programs like this across the country, and it tends to be, and I know this is exactly what the honors program here at LSU is trying to replicate. It is the honors programs across the country that have really the best reputations that have exactly this kind of credential, and so they're really like trying to put themselves, quite rightly, into that category and
Does this in any way drive rankings?
Right.
Drive rankings?
So the rankings of honors colleges probably are connected in this way. I mean, it will be the case that the way in which honors college rankings work, they take into consideration what happens to graduates post-graduation, and so certainly being able to position people in this way will certainly help with that. I think that it's been helpful to me over the year to think about so the vast majority of students who graduated from the honors program end up with a 4.0 or pretty close to it. But you can imagine that even in an honors program, there's a big difference between someone who graduates from an honors program and someone who is able to apply for, something like a Rhodes Scholarship or a Marshall or some major scholarship. And then even then, some of those people actually even get those calls. So there is even in this honors program a very big spread. And so this degree is really trying to fill that, effectively that information gap. How can you really represent yourself as being one of the very, very best who are graduating from a very, very great program? This is what this is about.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, members. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Which is Sterling and Creed. Any discussions? All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you. So the next two items I have are two of our annual legislative reports. So I'll take them in order. The first is a report about the MJ Foster Promise program. As you might remember, the MJ Foster program was named for Louisiana's Governor Murphy J. Foster. And that program is the state's adult financial aid program. And so $10.5 million has been provided the last 2 years to be able to enable students who are in two-year or proprietary institutions to take studies that directly lead to the workforce. And so kind of want to tell you kind of how that story's unfolded over those 2 years. In the very first year, and I presented that first report about a year ago, we had right at 1,200 students who were enrolled in that initial cohort. If you'll remember, we were able to expend right around $2.5 to $3 million of the $10.5 million. We couldn't spend all the money that year. And it produced 188 graduates that very first year. About half of those graduates were associate degree earners. About half of those graduates were short-term credential awardees. You can see that this year is remarkably different. This year, we spent all the money almost by Christmas time, so the money was completely expended. We had supported more than 3,000 students this second time out, and you can see that of those 3,000 students that were supported during that second year, we had 1,276 students who received a credential. Altogether, we awarded about 1,500 credentials, 1,476, but some of those students earned more than one credential along the way, and that's certainly within the bounds of the program. So you can see already there is a really good story to tell here. We made some subtle changes to the way that the program was administered. In the first year, students had to fill out the FAFSA form right from the very start, and it was always a last dollar scholarship. The slight changes that were made were that in the first semester now, the MJ Foster program is a first dollar scholarship. It is able to provide funding as initial dollars, and it also gives students a little longer to be able to fill out that FAFSA form if it is a Title IV eligible program. That has made all the difference in the world, as you can see, both in the number of students who are enrolled, but equally well in the number of graduates, which I know is exactly what you and certainly we would very much like to see. A little bit of information about who it is that this program supports. You'll remember that the MJ Foster program was deliberately created to try to support people who are primarily low-income students. That's not the only way in which they can qualify, but it is really the intention of the funding. And you can see here, and it, as I say, is an adult financial aid program. It funds people who currently are 21 and older, but really the intention was always to fund adults. You can see 47% of the recipients were 30 or older this year. 65% of the recipients had a family income that was below the household survival budget of $27,000. This is the ALICE threshold budget. And in fact, almost everyone, 97% had an income that was below the survival salary for a family of four. So you can see it really is exactly going to students who were the intended target audience. little bit of the demographics of those who were enrolled and those who earned. What I'm showing you here is the demographics of those 1,276 students who earned credentials, and I'm happy to tell you that the demographics of those who earned credentials is basically the same as the demographics of the students who enrolled, which I think is actually a really good story to tell. But you can see here that that overwhelmingly those who earned credentials were women, were female, 74%, and a very substantial proportion of those who earned credentials, 69%, were African Americans. So again, you can see a really good spread of support, both by gender and also by race.
Adults, you gotta be adults.
Are we spending part of that $10 million on that?
So let me tell you a little bit about what these people do. So as I say, we awarded, as I say, close to 1,500 credentials to those 1,276 recipients. Overwhelmingly, those credentials were in the space of healthcare.
Do you have a geographical breakdown? Do you have a geographical breakdown? Where is it coming? Urban centers, rural? Who's coming?
Yeah, so I can certainly get you a good spread. Maybe we can, I'm sure we can actually create a geomap of where those folk are. They really are spread out all over the state, because we have both our community colleges and then also 150 of our proprietary institutions that these people are attending. So they really are all over the place. But happy to. It's a great addition. We can certainly do for you. Thank you. So as I say, the awards, just as they were last year, but in much smaller numbers, overwhelmingly in healthcare and transportation. All of the programs that have to be, that are funded by MJ Foster, have to be in one of these 5 specific target industry areas. But you can see that this program really is meeting the kinds of need that we want. I know I don't need to persuade this body that we desperately need people who have credentials in healthcare, and you can see this is a major engine for us to produce that. So a little bit about this year. We were able to track, well, what happens after they graduate. Last year it was so new we were not able to do that. This year we were able to take those people who graduated from last year's program and then trace them into the workforce. We were able to match over 90% of those who graduated in the UI record data. Just because we were not able to match them doesn't mean they're not employed. They may be self-employed. They may be in one of those industry areas that is not tracked by UI data. But as I say, we were able to match 90% of them. And what we can see here is a before and after picture. That before, their average wages were right around $20,000, and you can see that 77% of the before salaries actually were below the ALICE survival threshold. After, the picture is substantially different. Now, almost 2/3 of them have salaries that are above the ALICE survival threshold, and the average salary now is a little bit more than $40,000. So in other words, on average, before and after, these graduates are earning about $20,000 more than before they went through the program, which I think is just a terrific good news story. The reality is their salaries are still modest, but their salaries are not anything like as modest as they were when they started. So I think that's great. So first then is senior staff recommends approval of the MJ Foster Promise Program annual report and authorizes the commissioner to submit the report to the appropriate legislative bodies on behalf of the Board of Regents.
Okay,
Of course, happy to answer any questions you have about MJ Foster.
I do have one question, Tristan. For the enrolled and the completed, is there any way that we reach out to those who did not complete? Is there any follow-up with them so that, are they all completing, or are they dropping out? And if they're dropping out, is there any attempt to reach them and help them go to a different path?
No, it's a terrific question, and thanks so much for asking it. So we actually went and looked to see what happened to last year's people. If you remember, there were 1,200 and some odd students who were funded by the program in the first year. There were right at 200 or some odd people who actually graduated. So there's about 1,000 people in the middle. And I think last year we said, well, we really hope that those people are still in their studies and will come back next year. When we get that data, we'll be able to tell you. So we have actually run those numbers. So of those roughly 1,000 people who were in that not yet kind of space, about 2/3 of those people, so about a little bit more than 600 of them, did in fact come back to the program, and half of those people have now already completed their credential. So it really is the case that, the people who are not yet completers are not yet completers. There's every reason for us to imagine that they really are returning and continuing on to complete their credentials.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for the question.
Dr. Dillon, can you, of these 3,038, do you have data on per system, per campus, and how much?
Yeah, so we do have, so per system, yes, so certainly do. Yeah. So we actually have the breakdown of exactly how many of everything, both enrollment and completion by campus and by institution. As I say, it is, so MJ Foster funds are eligible for any two-year institution in the state, but also any of the proprietary institutions that meet particular criteria. And so you can imagine it varies considerably by the size of the institution and where they are and what they offer and all those, but certainly happy to provide that breakdown.
Okay.
Before you vote, I just want to make one quick comment. Tristan mentioned last year we ran out of money in December. Dr. Boute's here. They operate the program. We anticipate running out of money again.
Thanks.
So there is $7 million unused funding in a fund. REC would have to recognize that money in December. Joint budget would have to approve utilization of that money in December as well for LOSFA to be able to access that money. So we have been socializing that, the chair and I and others, to make sure the legislature knows that we are trending to that same running short of money, and that we'll need a solution, which is also why you saw in the budget request doubling this program from 10.5 to 21. So just wanted to make sure you had that context.
And I believe that I'm right in saying that the number of students being supported is already well over 3,000. So I think we're already well above where we were over the whole year last year. So I think that's right, isn't it? So something close to it.
And this is a direct correlation to our achieving our 60%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing is the legislature, and Suwan can speak to this, or Tristan, the legislature approved reducing the eligibility age every year. So that will also grow the program. Correct?
It's a great program, and it's greatly needed. Thanks so much for your work there.
The number of students ranges from 20 to 81. We actually have a frequency distribution by age of all of the students that are being paid. It's important to note that the end of last year, the acceptance rate for MJ Foster was 34.1%. That means out of the individuals that were eligible to the individuals that actually took advantage of the scholarship and enrolled was 34.1%. We ran out of money at a 34.1% acceptance rate in March of last year. As of right now, we are at $8 million in expenditures. I do not expect to be able to fund MJ Foster in spring. I am hoping that we can fund any student who is enrolled after December 1. We have given the campuses a November 1st deadline, and we've said, you must submit all anticipated billings to LOSFA of any student who is enrolled through November 30th. I don't mean beginning to enroll, but enrolled through November 30th. That will, when you get to a less than $2 million left, those bills haven't come in yet. So that will help us to understand whether we can fund all of those students, and if we can't, the legislation specifically says how you handle that. You must only fund students that have continued before, and we have to do that in the priority that we receive those billings. The acceptance rate right now is 31%. So 34% last year, we ran out in March. A 31% acceptance rate this year, we're running out possibly November. So we presented all of those statistics yesterday.
Yes.
At the request of Senate Education. We provided them with the breakdown by age. We provided them with the breakdown by zip code. We can tell you exactly how many students enrolled in each of those zip codes and what we paid. And we can tell you by age how much money we're paying to each age group. And we informed Senate Ed yesterday, it is not the addition of the 20-year-olds.
That's right.
That caused this. There are 135 20-year-olds that we've paid. Your biggest categories are in those 30-year-olds, the first two, right? We have one 81-year-old that we paid, which we're gratified because it's never too old. You're never too old to learn. So Senate Education has all of that information. The chair said at the end of the day, what we need is more money for the program, and we agree.
Yes. Thank you. So the information Dr. Boutte mentioned, we'll be happy to get to you all as well.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before I move on to TOPS, I do want to just, I think it's helpful for you to know that as part of our legislation last year, there was a Senate resolution that asked the Board of Regents, Senate Resolution 138, asked the Board of Regents to create a report that looks at all of our financial aid programs across the state, and then looks to see, well, how are they constructed? What are the eligibility criteria? How are they, what do we know about the trends of awarding? What do we know about any barriers that might prevent those tools working the way that perhaps they were intended to be? And also, how do they fit together? Because you can imagine between MJ Foster and TOPS Tech and Go Teach and the Patriots, I mean, there's a big list of all of these different financial aid tools, and they were all created at different times with slightly different criteria and fund slightly different things and all of those things. And so this Senate resolution asks us to, first of all, take that all-embracing look at what those tools are, but then also in partnership with LOSA and also in partnership with all of the financial aid officers across the state to make some recommendations about how we might be able to sort of align those programs in ways that would be helpful moving forward. So I know that, I hope that's welcome news to this body. I know that as I'm just about to present TOPS, in the past you said, well, okay, so what are we going to do about this? So this much more fully embracing report will be an opportunity for us to really be able to make some recommendations.
This could be a great opportunity to roll in workforce again and have some alignment with
That's right.
MJ Foster.
And I know you, Madam Chair, have some ideas about TOPS too. So.
Always, yes, always.
So this will be a nice opportunity for us to do that. So, you know, the bottom line for TOPS is that really, in many ways, I could almost have to recorded what I said last year and say it again, because the news is, I think, very much the same. That we still know that students who receive TOPS awards they graduate at substantially higher rates than their colleagues who do not receive TOPS. They graduate. When they do graduate, it's substantially less. Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe we skipped over the motion for Foster, and I
We did. We didn't know if we could.
appropriately yanked back. So thank you.
Everybody's just very excited. We didn't know if we could combine the two. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items for MJ Foster?
So moved.
Mayor and, all right, May, gotcha.
Thank you. I now will put my neck back in the right
Proceed.
place. I feel like I have
Oh,
to.
I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now you may proceed.
Thank you.
We're rolling.
So as I say, what we know about students who receive TOPS is that in so many ways, TOPS does exactly what it was intended to do. It enables our best and brightest students to graduate at substantially higher rates, and you can see that they do in fact graduate at their 6-year graduation rates and at their 4-year graduation rates at substantially higher rates than their colleagues who do not receive TOPS. That's exactly what we would like to see. I'm very happy to tell you that that actually the full-to-full retention rate for our TOPS recipients is at an all-time high. Over 95% of those students are now being retained, the honor students year on year, and all in general, all TOPS recipients are now being retained at higher rates than they ever have been before. So that's really terrific news. The other side of the terrific news coin is that sadly, we still see an ongoing declining trend of students who are accepting their TOPS. And this I have talked about a little before, that across each of the award areas, opportunities, performance, honors, you can see if you look in the table that for more than a decade now, a slowly declining proportion of those students who are eligible for TOPS actually choose to accept that award and enroll in one of our Louisiana institutions. You can also see that over time, that slowly declining proportion of students who accept has also been twinned with a gradually declining number of students who are eligible. Now, I will say that some of this is population driven, and as I've said before, we should expect that we are now on a slight uptick over the next few years about the number of high school graduates that we would see, and so consequently, it's not unreasonable to imagine that we will also see a gentle increase in the number of students who are eligible. Clearly, they're not completely connected, but they are very highly correlated. But it is the case, and we very much want to think about this as we make our recommendations. Are there ways that we might be able to think about modifications to TOPS that would encourage more students to actually avail themselves of those funds? That's TOPS opportunities, performance, and honors. TOPS Tech has always been different, and it continues to be different. As I shared before, last year, of the students who are eligible for TOPS Tech, historically, only about 1 in 5 of those students has accepted that award. And what we know about the opportunities, performance, and honors students is the vast majority of those students who do not accept the award go out of state. They do enroll in college, they do so out of state. In TOPS Tech, what's quite surprising is that almost half of those students who do not choose to take their TOPS Tech award, they do in fact enroll in a Louisiana institution. But they enroll in a Louisiana institution in a program or in a manner that does not allow them to then take the TOPS Tech award. So to be a TOPS Tech student, to take the funds, you have to enroll full-time, and you have to enroll in a program that is TOPS Tech eligible, which is primarily at our 2-year institutions and always in a program that is workforce connected. What happens is of those almost, I believe it's 47% of those students who do not take the TOPS Tech dollars, they do enroll in those Louisiana institutions, but they either enroll part-time, or they enroll in a 4-year institution, or they enroll in a 2-year institution in a program that's just not eligible. So it is the case that they do want to be part of higher education, but they are not, because of their choice, able to avail themselves of those TOPS Tech funds. So that's the sort of the précis of this. As you might imagine in the report, there's lots and lots and lots of statistics, and I'm happy to talk about any of them, but senior staff do recommend the approval of the TOPS report and ask for authorization for the commissioner to submit the report to the appropriate legislative committee.
Is there any plan to resolve the TOPS Tech, or is there anything that we can do to make it more attractive for students to accept or allow more to be eligible?
So I think this is certainly one of the things that we absolutely want to address in the Senate resolution, a Senate study resolution that we're working on. There was certainly a fairly robust conversation in the last legislative session as to whether or not, in what way TOPS Tech does or doesn't interact with the MJ Foster program. Clearly, they are both programs that are aimed at providing support for people who are in directly workforce workforce-oriented programs. They're not synonymous, it turns out. They actually, they serve very, very importantly different populations in subtly different ways. And so I think being able to do this as part of this study resolution report will allow us really to do this in a wholehearted way, as opposed, because it really is going to be the case that changing one without another is not, doesn't work on its own. And so it's certainly my hope that we will be able to make some concrete recommendations. And I think in January, I'll be happy to present the report here, and of course happy to discuss it with anyone along the way.
Oh, yeah,
but certainly that's the intention. Yeah.
That would be great.
Sure. Sir.
Go ahead.
Ask a question real quick. Of course, you know, I studied this before this meeting, and we see the numbers going in the wrong way on TOPS. And if we sleep at the wheel, everybody likes TOPS, let it keep going the way it is, that's great and goes towards, we're still going towards our 60% goal. But is there any way we can see what our competing states are doing? Because the criticism is we're training people, they're going to college for free, then they're going out of state, namely to Texas, Georgia, to work with free taxpayer degrees from Louisiana. Can we see how do other states, especially other states that have such a program, do they have any other safeguards or rails to try to keep students in state that we do not have or have not explored yet? And how would, if we implemented any of those, would that, keep people even more so from declining our TOPS awards and saying, well, I'll just accept my full scholarship from so-and-so out-of-state university rather than be locked into living into Louisiana for a certain amount of years. I believe I was at a higher education summit in Shreveport, and I believe it was the president of Centenary College said that Mississippi has a guardrail of 5 years. You have to remain in the state, and that's where his children went to college, and they've married and have kids, and now they're going to live in Mississippi the rest of their lives. So can you address that? Thank you. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, so it's certainly the intention that as part of this report, we will look at, as you say, we're not the only state in the country that has a program like TOPS. So actually, when I was in Georgia and in Tennessee, both of those states have similar programs. They're both called the HOPE program in those two states. So we are not, we're not unique in having a merit-based scholarship. And so certainly we'll be looking to see, are there lessons to be learned from those other states as to how it is that we might implement those in, as you say, ways of which, on the one hand, we want more people on the front end to choose to take those funds and be educated here in Louisiana. That makes it more likely that they will stay. I know that there is some talk about ways in which we might use the TOP scholarship for people who leave to attract them to come back, and that's certainly a possibility too. And certainly, are there ways in which we can structure the program so that when they do stay here in Louisiana and graduate, that we make it much more likely that they will remain here. I will draw your attention to figure I on page 37 of the report, which at least gives some initial information about what happens to graduates. It's not perfect, and I'm not saying that it is, but it does. What we did this year for the first time was we looked to see, were we able to find TOPS graduates in UI records? So in other words, as we've said, the UI records are not perfect because they don't, if you're self-employed or you work for the federal government or you're in the military, then we can't see you in the UI data. So you'll see the big blue bar are the people that we found in the UI records. The orange bar are students who were found in public institutions here in Louisiana. Again, if they, as things currently stand, if they enrolled at Tulane or Louisiana Christian or any of the Lakeview schools, we would not be able to see those enrollments. But if they enrolled in graduate school at one of our institutions, they're part of that orange bar. And then the gray bar. And the gray bar is we don't know. I don't want people to think the gray bar means they obviously left or they are on it. That's not true. We really don't know. But I think you can see that. So for substantial proportions of those students, we do see that they are remaining in the state for at least a couple of years, and that's at least a good sign. So this is intended to be a down payment, not an answer, but at least a down payment. We'll know much more when LA First gets up and going, and that's, I think, very helpful. Thanks for the question.
Good data, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions?
The 2 years I've been on it, we've kind of been hearing about TOPS and unexpended funds. And have we been allowed to utilize those dollars that are left over?
I'm going to phone a friend.
Regent Aubrey, so we run TOPS projections usually in January to provide to the budget office for the next year, but also where we are in the current year. And so over the past few years, we've had a trend where TOPS is going down. So that money is removed from the TOPS budget and used in some other area of the state budget. Now, there's been times...
Is it higher education?
Well,
Yes.
it's not directly. It's funded some of those one-time supplemental needs. We receive general fund from that. So you could say, if it comes from TOPS, then it stays in higher education. But it's not a direct line that says we're going to remove TOPS to fund this. It's just the funding is removed and then it's added as another line item for whatever that next project is.
Okay, so we recommending the 25-26 budget. We are asking a standstill for the most part for TOPS. The last 2 years, we didn't hit that number. So what are our plans if we've been told, and we got another year or so when, enrollment is going to go down. If nothing changes, we are going to have more TOPS money left over. Should we, through our legislative committee, have something in place where, we don't have to send it back or to take on some of these other projects? Would that be a good budget exercise?
Yeah, that would be. It can fund it could be used to fund Go Grants or NJ Foster or all these other needs that we have.
Meaning the leftover.
Right, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Not touching what we get, but Correct. If we don't hit it, I think higher ed in my year, when you didn't use all your state money, well, you can do small capital projects. Act 971, you can do this, you can do these things. Why haven't we pursued that with TOPS since we kind of hit our peak?
Yeah, well, prior to the last 3 years, we were always asking for more money and coming back every year, especially in the supplemental, to say we need additional funds to cover TOPS for the current year, and we need it for the growing years. There was, I think it was 2 years ago, there was a reduction in TOPS because of participation, but that money under John Bell's administration, they did use that money to stay in higher ed to fund the faculty pay raise. So that was a direct one that we knew we had money that we knew we weren't going to use all $330 million for the next year. So that money was carved out to go towards faculty pay. So it's happened before, but it's never been a direct line to do it. But we can certainly run that exercise.
Okay.
But that's done legislatively, right? We have no say in they're recapturing those funds and reappropriating them.
Yeah, that'll be an administration decision as to when we provide them the TOPS projections. If they need to use that money somewhere else in the state budget, they'll make that move.
But unless, we've given higher education a lot more leeway now with procurement, I mean, like I said, Act 971 with these small capital projects and different things, when they don't utilize the money, why we shouldn't empower Regents or this entity to be able, especially now you say it's 3 years, I've only been here 2, so if nothing changes, I mean, we're going to have excess money.
That is correct.
In that budget.
Right, in that budget year, yeah.
And we got deferred, we got we go almost $2 billion in projects will be shovel ready, and we got, $120 million that's probably in the capital outlay. Just, can we help?
Yep.
Yeah, we can run that exercise.
Or maybe put another way, would it be appropriate to propose if some of the funds are unused, can we, like, now say allocate that towards a specific line item or a category of projects, rather than the governor or the legislature taking it, putting it back in general?
Like when he said part-time students, for the M.J. Foster or the TOPS, it doesn't allow for those part-time students enrolled. Like, if we don't use this money, then let's...
Yeah.
We would need legislative authority to grant us that ability to do that for, if it wanted to stay just within the financial aid programs, to say, to cover it, it would still require a legislative action to give us that authority.
And have we ever asked that?
Yeah. So we have had a conversation every year with the Commissioner of Administration about those items, but we've not asked for legislation that allows the clawback of it and to stay within the higher ed financial aid family. We haven't asked for that legislation.
Madam
Yet.
Chair, I would like to be on your calendar. Let's just have some talk about that.
You got it. We'll set up a date.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I offer a motion to accept the recommendation for the TOPS report.
Motion made
Second.
and seconded by Regent Freed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Research and sponsored initiatives. The appointment of endowed chairholder without a national search, University of Louisiana at Monroe. Next up is the research and sponsored initiatives. Deputy Commissioner for Sponsored Programs, Ms. Carrie Robinson, will present the next item. Appointment of endowed chairholder without a national search at the University of Louisiana Monroe. Sorry, y'all, I didn't realize it was 2 colors. Ms.
Yes,
Robinson,
ma'am.
please proceed.
Thank you, ma'am. We have one request for the appointment of an endowed shareholder without a national search from UL Monroe, and this request is to appoint Dr. Jana Sutton to the Spiker Chair in Education. Dr. Sutton is a longtime faculty member at ULM, a full professor, and she's held a variety of both faculty and administrative positions on the campus. She is highly qualified to be appointed to this chair. I would also note that in August, the Board of Regents changed the conditions under which the board will consider waivers of the national search requirement for an endowed chairholder, and ULM, in putting this request forward, has complied with all of the new requirements. So the senior staff strongly recommends this request for approval.
All right. Thank you, members. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item? Okay. Regent Pryor?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This one caught my eye as I was studying for this meeting. How does that go towards getting the best people for jobs if we do not do national searches?
The rationale here is a retention rationale, that providing the resources of the chair first. What an endowed chair does is it's $1 million corpus, and that earns money year over year that is restricted to the use by the chair holder. So a vacant chair does nothing. A filled chair allows resources to be deployed by the chair holder in support of the academic and research missions of the institution. In this case, the rationale is to ensure retention of a superior senior faculty member at the institution.
Why can't that be done through a search where that senior faculty member is one of the
It certainly
candidates?
can, and the Regents policy has a provision in which an internal appointee can be selected through a national search. The national search requirement does not then require that someone from out of state be selected by that national search. But in a lot of cases, institutions, a national search can be very expensive. To do it right, it can require a search firm, it can require significant resources in travel and entertainment for candidates to come in. And so the institution, when they know they have a high-quality person who is very likely to win the search, will ask for an internal appointment rather than expend the funds to go through the national search process.
And as I was looking at this issue, I saw that in 2021 that the LSU Med School in New Orleans, the chancellor was removed for part of the reasons doing nepotism in administrative positions. What kind of, does that concern you in? And I don't know this lady. I don't know, who she is or anything. Are we setting a precedent against what happened in 2021 at a very high-profile position, an investigation by the state that uncovered a lot of mess there, and we're stepping back into the mess as a policy if we advance stuff like this? Do you think?
The internal appointment policy as a waiver has been on the books, and the way that we have combated those kinds of appointments is any person who is put forward to fill a chair as an internal appointment via waiver has to meet all of the academic and research requirements to serve as a chair. They have to be senior faculty, they have to be paid at a certain level that is stipulated in our policy, and then there is a sequence of professional qualifications that person has to meet. We formerly had a mandatory external evaluation of any candidate put forth to hold an endowed chair without a national search. So we had external out-of-state experts review their record to make sure that they were qualified to hold the chair. Where we clawed that back a little bit because, again, it's very, very expensive to do that kind of thing. We have to pay consultants when we're asking them to do that kind of work. So what we did was we put in place a policy in which the staff will review the CV. We receive the CV for every individual for whom a waiver is requested. We review the CV. If it is at all unclear to us that the person meets every single qualification that's required of an endowed chair, no matter how they're appointed, then we will send it out for review. But if it is clear to us, as it was in this case, that the chair holder is fully equipped to hold the chair in terms of academic and research qualifications, then we will move forward with the recommendation to the board.
I understand.
Okay. We've heard a motion to approve the agenda by Regent Temple and seconded by Creed. Any discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. The motion still passes.
I don't think,
No.
no, Uma, I don't think we have the roll
No.
call. We just
Yeah,
mark, we
one.
just note that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mark,
yeah.
one objection. Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing everyone's vote, the motion passes. Next is statewide programs. We are joined by Executive Director of LASA, Dr. Suzwan Boutte, to present the consent agenda. Dr. Butte, please proceed.
We have two consent agenda items. Do you want
Microphone. Microphone.
I've never been accused of being soft-spoken. So just want it down for the record. We have two consent agenda items. Would you like to take those up in Globo, or you want to do one at a time? Globo? Okay.
Yeah, one at a
All
time.
right. The first one is approval of TOPS home study exemptions. This is where a student has to begin the home study no later than the beginning of the 11th grade. Students who cannot do this, you are allowed to grant them exceptions. The next would be the TOPS and MJ Foster exceptions. These are the traditional ones with respect to having to enroll full-time, maintain continuous full-time enrollment. You have the authority to be able to provide exceptions for these. The LOSP Advisory Board, as usual, reviews all of these exceptions, and they have recommended approval of both consent agenda items.
Any discussion?
Give the people an exception.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Get bullied or something.
So
Dr. Meir,
Temple.
Regent Meir, and Temple. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next up is planning, research, and performance.
Regents, we have three items on the consent agenda. The first item that you'll see here is our academic licensure items. We have four institutions: Oral Roberts University, again in Tulsa, that happens to have a site in Mandeville, Louisiana. They have 69 Louisiana students. We have Remington College, which has multiple Louisiana sites. There are 557 students. You'll also note that Remington College, Remington College is, I'll push it back because I'm really loud, 557 students, and also accredited by the career schools and colleges. They are also a licensed proprietary school in the state of Louisiana, but they do offer some programs resulting in a degree, so they are licensed in both areas. We've got San Joaquin Valley, accredited by the Accrediting Commission of Community and Junior Colleges. There are 2 Louisiana students at this institution, and then United States University in San Diego, accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges with 30 Louisiana students. Our second item on the consent agenda are our proprietary schools items. The first is an initial application for the Greater Baton Rouge Dental Assistance Academy in Prairieville. And then we have 36 renewal applications. In both of these instances, all of these institutions, the applications have gone before the Proprietary Schools Advisory Commission, and they are recommending approval. If there are no questions, senior staff recommends approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved. Second.
Okay. That was May.
Williams Brown.
Williams Brown.
And Williams Brown. Seconded by Williams Brown. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Now I'm happy to call on the Commissioner to present her reports and recommendations. She and I have been in so many meetings this past few weeks, this past month, making presentations before the legislature and promoting the good work of Regents. She's going to give us a recap of everything that we've been up to.
Yes. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Let me first again echo the comments of the chair as a big thank you to this campus and its leadership. Such great hospitality. Really appreciate the opportunity to come. Just a couple of updates. First of all, the STEM Summit was held in Lafayette As you all know, I love kids and robots, and so that's the picture that we are, of course, showing. But it's a statewide conference, second year in Lafayette, but it brings together K-12 and higher ed and business and industry as we try to build out a STEM ecosystem in our state. Thanks to Regent David for hosting our speaker, our keynote speaker, Captain Irving, for the event. So really great. The next slide, Dr. Denley and I, and certainly the chair, have had a lot of opportunities to talk about the value of higher education, the return on investment, and the importance of staying the course in terms of investing in higher education. So we spoke to the Elevate Louisiana group, women's leadership group, about this work. We've talked to PAR as part of their webinar. The chair mentioned that we've been in House Appropriations, we've been in House Education, we've spoken to the governor, we've spoken to the Commissioner of Administration. If you're moving and you have a minute, we want to talk to you about the importance of higher education. So we know that's important. Southeastern is entering their 100th anniversary, and so this is where I got my start in higher education. So they invited me to their celebration. As you can see in this photo, I was shocked by the streamer cannon, the confetti cannon. Almost gave me a heart attack, but it was just great to be there, to be a part of it. Again, institutions that are making a real difference for students, so important. And then Dillard University hosted, was it Regent Muir, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that's
the HBCU Summit, and then followed by the HBCU Utility Workforce Summit. The HBCU, Advisory Council meeting, and then the Workforce Summit. So the summit brought together AT&T, Regent Aubrey, Regent Muir was there, Regent Temple was there, Baton Rouge Water, the CLECO, just lots of utilities in our state to really have students understand the potential job opportunities for them, but also deans and academic officers to understand the kinds of core competencies that are needed to do these jobs well. So it was the first utility summit, thanks to Devontae Lewis with the Public Service Commission, who saw another state do this and said, we can do it and even better. So really appreciate the opportunity to do that and have students. You see the Grambling students who came in, but students from across the state, from our HBCUs that were there. Again, regents with a very strong presence, and I'm grateful for that. And then I just want to mention again my appreciation to cable. You all know they've done a really good job on their statewide cable wire, talking about the value of higher education and how it'd be counterproductive to cut higher ed. So we appreciate those partners. And then I also want to mention the Advocate. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at this, but if not, Chris will send it out to you. The Advocate has been doing a series on Where Are They Now? It's called College to Career. 20 years ago, college SGA presidents, and where are they now? And so this one is Martin Lamel, who was 20 years before the SGA president at Grambling, now the president of Grambling State University. But it's a wonderful reminder that students and student leaders get a great foundation.
And I say that with thanking the staff and Commissioner for being sensitive to Washington Mardi Gras and the inauguration.
Yes, I second that. Seconded by Regent Creed, Aubrey and Creed. Any discussions? Any objection? Hearing none, the motion passes. Please save these dates on your calendar. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board? Sure.
Madam Chair, Regents, Commissioner, thank you all so much for being here. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks for you all holding your meeting here in Natchitoches, which is very, very culturally rich and vital, plays a vital role in the heritage and vibrancy of this region. Your presence here highlights that significance of our community, and we're honored to have you here. Additionally, I'd like to invite you all back for the first week in December for, as the chairman said, I can't stop talking about Natchitoches Christmas Festival. I'd like to invite you all back for the first week in December, where the LSU gymnastics team, our national champion our national championship team will be the grand marshals of the Christmas parade. So I hope to see all of you and your families here that weekend. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. We look forward to coming back. Okay, members, looking ahead, we do not meet in November. The December convening will be a 2-day meeting in Baton Rouge. Took my glasses off too soon. Starting the afternoon of Tuesday, December 10th, with the board development session, followed by a special board social at the Watermark to cap off our 50th anniversary celebration. On Wednesday, December 11th, we will begin with the joint Bessie meeting, followed by the Board of Regents committees and the board meeting in the Thomas Jefferson room. We will send more information about these meetings soon. Doreen, do we have any public comment? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
And we'll second by Regent Meir. With that being said, we're out of here, guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome.